I am begging with you, pleading with you, screaming, crying, throwing up on the floor, begging you to stop asking singers to do free work, free gigs, give their time up for charity. On a surface level, does it sound shitty to say that? Yes, probably. But I think a lot of people don't realise that it's a full-time job. A lot of people just assume that singers do gigs as a hobby and they are happy to work for exposure. But exposure don't pay the bills, honey. And honestly, it's not even just singers. This goes for all creatives, photographers, videographers, editors. I don't know, I can't think. If you're a creative, at some point in your career, I guarantee you will have been asked to do a free job for somebody. And the worst part is, most of the time, they legitimately think that they are doing you a massive favour by offering you unpaid work in exchange for exposure. I vividly remember a few years ago when I was busking in Clitheroe. For those of you who don't know what busking is, basically it's street performance. I do it, if you're new to my channel, I do it as my full-time job essentially. I am a performer. I travel around the cities and towns of the UK, and I just sing on the streets in loads of different places, and it opens you up to a lot of harassment, a lot of pity, I guess. There's a lot of people who think that because you are performing on the street you are struggling, and they never consider that you're just doing it because you enjoy doing it. I guess I probably sound like a right dick saying this, because if they view you struggling, I can only imagine that they're trying to help by offering you low or unpaid work. I actually no, because if I was legitimately struggling, offering low or unpaid work is even worse in my opinion. But anyway, I vividly remember singing on the streets in Clitheroe one day, and this guy comes up to me mid-song, may I add. They always love to interrupt mid-song, and he goes,
"Hey, me and the lads were sat at a pub down there, and we all thought if you want to come and sing for 2 to 3 hours, you know, do a set, we'll all chuck in and we could give you about 30 quid.
And I just looked at him like, because my busking bag was sat in front of me, and I'd had a really good day. Not every day is like this, but I'd had a really good day, and I think I must have had like at least over 100 quid sat in my busking bag, and it was really obvious. So he was like,
"We'll all chip in and we'll give you 30 quid.
And he was genuinely trying to be nice. He genuinely thought that he was doing me a massive solid by offering me that. But from my perspective, I just can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it, because I always think, if this was any other self-employed profession, like a plumber or an electrician, or I don't know, just any other self-employed profession, no one would dream of saying, come and refit the pipes in my house and I'll chuck you 30 quid. I do just want to clarify that it's kind of different when you're doing a collaboration with someone online. Like if someone with a huge following says, you know, come onto my podcast or come and be a special guest here, it's kind of different, because they actually are offering you something worthwhile for your time. Like it's like, you know, if you have 3 million followers and you run a podcast and you invite me to come on your podcast, unpaid, but you know, you've got 3 million followers, I benefit from that. So I might do that, because then I would get a huge influx of followers from that. But it's very different when they're not offering you payment or any benefit at all. Like literally, if it is just a working men's club, or, you know, I'm probably going to go to hell for saying this, but you wouldn't believe the amount of charities that say we're running or representatives of charities. So I'll get like a message from a person who says, like, you know, I work for this charity. We were wondering if you could donate your time this Saturday to perform at a small event for 100 people. And I say, that sounds great. You know, my rates are this much, and sometimes I might even discount it because it's for charity. But then when you suggest that you ought to get paid for your time and your work, they immediately just go, oh, no, we don't have a budget. It's a charity event. And I'm thinking, yeah, but like the amount of money that charities bring in, like we all know how charities work. The CEOs take a huge bloody wage. They have the money to pay singers, and it's not, my rates aren't huge, they're not. It's like, I think when I used to do gigs more, I'd charge like 150 quid for a couple of hours, but they are so offended by the idea that a singer might want payment, God forbid. I actually did do an unpaid gig fairly recently, and it's not something that I ever do these days, but you know, this was, I'm not going to name them, but they invited me to come and perform as a special guest, and you know, they got in contact with my management team and there was back and forth, and my team had said to them, we're really trying to propel Amy's presence at the moment, so it'd be fantastic if we could have a stage and all of this. And it was really hyped up, so I thought, oh great, you know what, I don't care if I'm not getting paid for this one because it's going to be amazing. Like, they'd promised this huge audience, and yeah, I don't know, it definitely wasn't what it had been hyped up to be. There was quite a lot of people there, but I sort of felt like I'd been invited as a kind of special guest. And I don't want to sound like I'm saying, I'm famous, I'm a celebrity, I barely scrape 200 views on YouTube. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I was invited as a sort of special guest because they'd reached out and said that they really enjoyed my TikToks and such. And then when I got there and did the performance, I just left feeling really humiliated, honestly. It wasn't what it had been hyped up to be, in my opinion. They kept interrupting me every few songs to make announcements. And at one point, I was literally on stage, mid-song, I had like a crowd of people watching, and they just cut my music off halfway through the song and to make an announcement. I was like, I felt so awkward. I was just stood there with all these people blinking at me, and it was silent, there was no music. I was like, what the fuck do I do now? And you know, there was no malicious intent. It was just, in my opinion, a poorly organised event. But I left that event with not much benefit, and I'd given up 2 whole days that I could have been working and earning, expecting to have some kind of huge bump in following from this. And I just came away feeling embarrassed. I also didn't mention, like, while I was performing, at the points where I wasn't being interrupted, they had people walking on and off the stage, in front and behind it, like all while I'm performing. I just felt really disrespected, honestly. And they actually have reached out since and asked if I'll do another one, but like haven't offered any payment. And I just, you know, my team said, do you want to do this? And I was just like, no, because I didn't feel appreciated whatsoever last time. Ultimately, it just served as a stark reminder for me why I don't do unpaid work. Because the way that I feel is that if they don't respect you enough to value what you do and offer payment up front when they're inquiring about booking you, they're not likely going to respect you in any other sense when you're doing the gig. They simply don't value you and your art enough to think that it's worth payment. So if you are a creative and you're watching this, know your worth. Stop accepting bare minimum from these charities and companies, and who are multi-million billion-dollar companies, by the way. Why am I saying dollar? I'm British. Multi-million billion pound companies, unless you're watching this in America, and therefore it will be dollars. They can absolutely afford to pay you. It's like a drop in the ocean for them. It's pennies to them. They are mocking you as they roll around in their dollar bills on the floor. On a totally unrelated note, I realised that I didn't finish my London vlog. I am very, very sorry. You know, I always do this. I start a series, I deliver part 1 swiftly, and then neglect to deliver part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and onwards. I just have a very, very overactive brain, and I fixate on things for a good few days and then lose all interest in them. So apologies, but I will tell you a little bit about the rest of my trip to London before I finish this video. I went to watch Cabaret on the West End. Dream come true. So that was absolutely fucking fantastic. I have never seen anything like it in my life. I find myself bored at concerts a lot of the time when it's literally just like a singer in an arena, but put me anywhere where there's musical theatre, and oh my god, my eyes were just glued to it the entire time. I cried on the first song. It was just absolutely amazing. Credit where credit is due to Rob Madge, who was playing the MC, because the whole time I was watching, I was thinking, I know you from somewhere, I recognise you from somewhere, and then I realised that I know him from TikTok. I'd been watching his TikTok videos for a long time, so he was absolutely phenomenal. I've never seen a performance like it ever before. Second night we went to All Points East Festival at Victoria Park, and I'll probably do a separate video on this because if you've seen my TikToks you will know the chaos that unfolded at this damn festival. So we didn't get there until around 8 p.m. because we were only really bothered about seeing Ray perform. I saw a little bit, we might have got there just before because I saw a little bit of FKA Twigs' set, and she put on a great show as well. I only saw a little bit of it, but we were really there to see Ray, and that was amazing. But we were only there for like from about 8 till 11 or just past 11, so 9, 10, 11, like 3 hours we were there. And we'd seen videos beforehand on social media about how dry and dusty the ground was, and that people were having respiratory issues and people were having to cover their faces and such, but we just thought, oh, people are being dramatic online. So we go, loads of people are like covering their face with bandanas, walking around with masks on and all sorts, and we'd literally been in there for about 20 minutes, and every time I breathed in or swallowed it felt like sand. Like I kept doing that and I kept feeling like sand crunching in my teeth, but it wasn't really affecting me breathing wise at this point. It wasn't until afterwards when we were leaving the festival and everyone was kind of stampeding, well, stampeding is probably dramatic, everyone was stomping on the ground as the huge crowds moved out of the exits, that all the dust was thrown up massively into the air. It was literally just because the ground has been so dry, because we've had pretty hot weather in the UK this summer. There's not been an awful lot of rain like there usually would be in Britain. So yeah, everyone was just walking around in these huge dust clouds and everyone's coughing and spluttering. And when we finally did get out of the festival, we were coughing up and blowing our noses, literally black liquid. It was revolting, and I made a few videos about it on TikTok, and everyone in the comments is saying, oh, you're being so dramatic, try a day on a construction site. You really honestly don't realise how bad it was. You couldn't breathe. And for the last few days since I got back, I've had a bit of a tight chest. It's felt like this is grim, so if you're not good with like snot and phlegm and stuff, just tune your ears out now. I felt really like phlegmy here and I keep coughing it up. It's gross. It's not, it doesn't feel, it could be worse. It's not a full-blown illness. So I'm kind of thankful that we were just there for 3 hours, because I can't imagine how the people who were there all weekend are now feeling. But I feel okay today. Last night was pretty rough, but I feel all right today. If you see any bogies of any kind coming out my nose during this video, black bogies, clear bogies, any kind of stuff coming out my nose, that's why. I've completely lost control of my sinuses after the weekend. But yeah, apart from that, it was good. I'm going to finish this video now because the lighting has gone really funny. But I hope this was entertaining and informative to you in some kind of way. If you would like to find me on my other social medias, I always drop them in the description below. God, that is so bright. I always drop them below. So please make sure you subscribe. Hit that bell button down on the bottom right, I'm sure, if you want to turn notifications on for my videos. And if you want to find me on my other stuff, I will list everything below. But you should just be able to type in Amy Alex onto most things. Right, peace out, and I will see you next time. Also, go and watch this on Netflix. It's called Amy Bradley is Missing. Absolutely amazing. I watched it the other night. Had me on the edge of my seat the entire time.